We are live and alive. Hey, everybody. Rex Bear, Leak Project. How the heck are you? Beautiful day today out here in Southern Colorado. It's about 30 degrees, snow's on the ground, clouds are in the sky, and I have the wonderful opportunity to speak with you. So buckle up, Buttercups, because we have a lot to talk about. While everybody's looking at 3i Atlas, and I'm one of them, there is so much other news out there that we need to get this out. I'm going to share with you 46 different articles that you might have missed, because instead of important news, oftentimes the news will propagate. Well, anyway, that's for a whole other podcast, but we have a lot to talk about. So let's go. And how's your day going? I hope you're having a fantastic day today. So a couple of days ago, I had Mark Lerner on the show. We went for like 3.5 hours, and you can watch that in full. It's also on Rumble. But we were talking about certain events and how they link up to astrological signs. And one thing that he mentioned that I thought was really interesting is Saturn and Neptune are going to align in the very near future. And this hasn't happened in 2,000 plus years. I said, Mark, what do you think it means? He says, it could mean black swan. He doesn't like to make full-on predictions, but you know me, I love to make forecasts. And actually, we're going to do a special on forecasts and predictions for 2026 here. If you go back and look at my track record, I'm about 50%. About 50% of the forecasts that I personally make happen. And we make some very detailed forecasts. So that's why you want to watch Leak Project. Plus, we're a lot of fun. And we do our best to bring as much information to you as possible. And we follow the data. We don't cater to one specific audience. We're following the data. And here's the news. We have a lot of news to share with you. The first thing I wanted, and I'm going to go rapid fire style, and then we're going to get into it a little bit deeper. King Charles recently just issued a rare warning to President Putin. Britain and Germany will bolster Europe against Russian aggression. Then UK sanctions. Russia, after inquiry, finds Putin responsible for nerve agent attack on British soil. Remember that? That was back in 2018. Well, now they're finally saying 7 years later, well, it was your fault, Putin. Check this out. Zelensky was in a jet and he was tracked by 4 drones on the way to the airport. Were these drones attempting to take down Zelensky, or were they just observing? We're going to talk about it. Also, there's calls for Zelensky's arrest. He either must quit or be arrested. What do you think about that? We'll see where that goes. And you're being tracked. 59,272, give or take a few, automatic license plate readers are tracking your every move. India is forcing mandatory tracking apps on all mobile phones to be installed. A Carrington-sized spot is facing Earth on the sun. China and Japan stand off in the sea by contested islands. Chinese ships jam communications as Filipino forces deliver supplies to the Philippines' occupied shoal. The Ministry of National Defense says in Taiwan, 10 PLA aircraft, 6 PLAN vessels, and 2 official ships are operating around Taiwan. They were detected, and 4 out of 10 sorties crossed the median line and entered Taiwan Northern ADIZ. Trump signs bill to deepen U.S.-Taiwan ties amid China concerns. The U.S. is preparing a frontline airbase for Chinese missile attacks. The coming storm for satellites, space weather, radiation spikes, a solar superstorm, the solar superstorm Gannon, crushed Earth's plasmasphere to a record low. Europe must change its understanding of modern warfare. The EU defense chief says Europe is now seriously considering what was once unthinkable, a retaliatory response against Russia, Politico reports. And Russia says NATO's remarks on preemptive strikes are irresponsible and escalatory. Russia also threatened Greece recently after a sea drone deal with Ukraine. Russia has a new flamethrower that can fry drones across 500,000 square feet in seconds. Oh yeah, and we're just getting started. I got so much more to share with you. Real quick though, I did want to thank you for being here with me. And I also wanted to thank today's sponsor, Noble Gold Investments. I've been with Noble Gold now for almost 10 years. So check this out. The Fed's out of options, rate cuts, money printing, balance sheet reversals. They're calling it policy, but it's really panic. This is endgame economics. where hope replaces discipline and the illusion of control finally breaks. They're not cutting rates because things are strong. They're cutting rates because the system is cracking. Inflation is eating savings accounts. The labor market's stalling. Confidence in the dollar is fading fast. And for decades, the Fed has built a house of paper. And now they're striking the match that could burn it all down, leaving you to pay the price. Every cycle ends the same way: bubbles, bailouts, and broken retirements. That's why smart investors are moving to what's real: gold, silver, platinum. When's the last time you actually held wealth you've spent your life working for? My friends at Noble Gold Investments have been helping Americans move from paper wealth into real, tangible assets. Numbers on a screen can disappear fast, but physical gold and silver, they've outlasted every crisis in history. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com today. Let them know Rex from Leak Project sent you. Check this out. They will give you a protection wealth kit. And if you convert your 401 or IRA into precious metals and you qualify, ask them how. It's real simple. They will gift you 10 ounces of solid silver. You'll get 10 of these collector silver coins, holiday silver coins you can see here. You'll get 10 of these, 10 ounces. Silver is hot. And a lot of experts are saying it's just getting started. Now, obviously, there's never any guarantees. So you look at what the money funders are doing, you look at what the big banks are doing, and they are usurping precious metals at extremely high levels. So do yourself a favor, give them a call, 877-646-5347, noblegoldinvestments.com. Okay, that's a quick shameless plug. You'll thank me later. You'll thank me later. And how are you all today? Looks like we have a global audience in here. This is awesome. You can be watching this from a phone. If you're watching it from a phone, it'll be in vertical. We have two. It's the same live stream, but it's being formatted in two different formats. So if you got two notifications, it's the same stream, but one is being presented in vertical and the other one is horizontal. So one's ideal for your phone and one's ideal for your TV or your big screen or your computer. So just thought I'd let you know, because people were asking, like, Rex, I used to get no notifications, and now I'm getting two notifications. So that's why. And we're also live streaming on Rumble. So make sure to subscribe to our Rumble page. We've got some awesome content exclusive on Rumble as well. Make sure you hit the bell here on YouTube for all notifications. Gotta love YouTube. There's still the big boys on the block, but check this out. Okay. So in Russia, if you have a Porsche, this is really weird. Hundreds of Porsche owners in Russia were unable to start their cars recently after a system failure. Interesting. We're going to get back into that. Do you remember Garry Kasparov, the chess player that took on IBM many years ago? And he is one of the greatest chess players of all time. Well, Garry Kasparov recently tore into NATO at the Halifax International Security Forum. France is creating a voluntary military service as Europe faces Russian threat. Germany is considering a voluntary military service to combat Russia. Environmental collapse is forcing Iran to potentially move its capital because they're in such a big drought. What do you think about that? Could you imagine being in a capital city and you have to move because you can't get enough water? Like, that's unprecedented. Well, it probably took place during the time of the natives, because we look at places out here in southern Colorado, like if you go to the Four Corners area, that place was once bustling with people hundreds of years ago. Now there's hardly anybody there. And it's because of the weather. The weather changes. And we're seeing some extremely bizarre weather patterns and unprecedented weather, a weakened magnetosphere, heightened solar activity, aurora borealis in the lower 48 states, a slowing down of the Earth's inner core. Seems like all of this might be connecting here. Maybe the powers that be are more concerned about environmental situations and running out of food and supplies. So it is causing them to build up their militaries for potential conflict, one of many. The U.S. Navy was accused of a cover-up over dangerous plutonium in San Francisco. Have you heard of CRINC? We're going to talk about CRINC in a minute. We're going to look at CRINC, and then that's China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea, and what they're doing to prepare for potential conflict with NATO and the U.S. And we're going to look at the we'll skip those two for now. I'll just go over this with you real quick. Satellite shows U.S. carrier strike group in the Caribbean, And then we have a satellite photo that captured D-Day invasion drills in China and around China. China has unprecedented number of ships in the U.S. Arctic waters, DHS says, and the U.S. Navy tries to lift jet and a helicopter from the bottom of the South China Sea. Do you remember several weeks ago when there were 2 crashes in the South China Sea within the same day? A jet and a helicopter mysteriously crashed in the South China Sea. A lot of speculation about what caused that. We don't have any definitive answers yet, but we do know they're attempting to pull out those vessels from the bottom of the South China Sea. Also, just recently, an Air Force pilot safely ejected before an F-16 crash in the California desert. Chernobyl is back in the news due to an unexpected turn of events. Russia launches its first brain-chipped bird drones for surveillance over cities. The world's largest weapons maker hit highest ever recorded revenues. Yeah, business is good if you're in the business of war. It's not good for the people that are fighting the war, though, but it certainly is good for those that are building the tech. The government officials, specifically the U.S. Department of Energy, has warned of a potential 100-fold increase in U.S. blackouts by 2030, driven by high energy demand, especially from data centers. So they're talking about putting these data centers in space. I think that would be a much better idea instead of using huge resources on Earth to keep them cool with the water, with the amount of energy that they need and the people that they drive crazy. Because if you build these data centers next to suburbs, people are complaining about this weird noise and this weird hum that makes it so they can't sleep. They say it messes up their circadian rhythm. I mean, I don't want a data center next to my house. Maybe you do. You know, a lot of these data centers that they put billions of dollars into and give tax breaks, they're only going to employ like 100 people max anyway. So who's really profiting off of these data centers? Also, U.S. firm advances plans to bury nuclear reactors a mile underground. They say it's for safety. Yeah, well, what about aquifers? Well, it's a mile underground. It'll be okay. Don't worry about it. If it blows up, it's a mile underground. Check this out. There's a new Dragonfire laser system in the UK that they're testing that's going to take down drones. And there's also a new NATO Arctic laser base that is going to counter Russia and China. Astronomers confirm 40,000 near-Earth asteroids within striking distance. And New Mexico residents, could a toxic metal plume threaten your health? We're going to talk about that. Crap. Now, I think this is great news. I love reading this. In my opinion, I think that this is awesome. Check this out. Kraft and Coca-Cola are among companies that are being sued by San Francisco over ultra-processed foods in first of its kind lawsuit. Good luck with that. They absolutely need to change, in my opinion, the crap that they put in this food, the crap that they put in the sodas. Like, you get a soda from Mexico, it's in a glass container. It's got a few ingredients. You get a Coca-Cola from the USA, it's in a plastic container instead of a glass container. There's more chemicals, more preservatives. Why? Makes you wonder. Now, here's some more good news, potentially good news. A recent article that I read, nasal drops could help fight a common and deadly brain cancer. And then scientists think we could recharge ourselves and rewind the aging clock. Scientists have created a cassette tape made of DNA that can store every song ever written. And we have computers made from human brain tissue that are going to be for sale in the very near future. Are you prepared? Why not? Be prepared, not scared. I've been talking about these computers for 15 years before it was even in the public mindset. So go back and read my blogs from 15 years ago. We've been talking about, that's why you should watch Leap Project, because we're years ahead of what the public news presents to the people, to you, to the awesome people out here. You're awesome. Thank you. You ever heard the saying, flattery will get you everywhere? Let's hope so. So let's get into it. Let's start at the very beginning, shall we? This rare warning that King Charles has issued. Man, I got a lot of notes. What are you up to today? So, King Charles has issued a rare warning to President Putin. Britain and Germany will bolster Europe against Russian aggression. This was an unusual and direct geopolitical warning. So the UK and Germany are going to strengthen European defenses. Germany wants to spearhead NATO. This is framing Russia as a destabilizing force on the continent and signals her growing unity among European powers. Will this make Russia stronger? Will this make NATO stronger? Next, UK sanctioned Russia after inquiry finds Putin responsible for nerve agent attack. The inquiry links Putin to nerve agent poisoning on British soil. The UK responds with new sanctions targeting officials and assets. This marks a major escalation in accusations directly naming President Putin. London is openly blaming the Kremlin and not just Russian agents. In other news, this is very interesting. Zelensky's jet in near miss with 4 observable drones. Ukrainian president's aircraft narrowly avoids multiple drones. The incident has raised concerns about targeted assassination attempts, and the drones' origin are under investigation. Someone is definitely testing the limits of Ukrainian presidential security. Now, if these are the mystery drones that we have observed over military sites and nuclear sites, that even just recently in Norway, I think it was either in Norway or Denmark, there was a military base out there that had these mystery drones continue to fly over. And so they shot at these drones, live ammunition, and the drones all got away. They didn't get nothing. And there's reports of these mystery drones being very similar to when people observed UAPs or UFOs. They can disappear. They can appear at will. They can go from 1,000 feet to 10,000 feet in a matter of seconds. They can change shape. They can interfere with the electronics of other drones that attempt to intercept them and other planes. So where are these drones from? Are they from Russia? Are they from China? Are they from the US? Or from a defense contractor? Are they extraterrestrial from a breakaway civilization? We still don't know. What we do know is these military bases can't seem to shoot them down. That's a bit concerning for me. Are these the same type of drones that are tracking Zelensky's plane? They could be. And then check this out. In other news, you're being tracked. 59,272 approximately ALPRs are mapped worldwide. These are automatic license plate readers. They're expanding globally and locally. We've got over 59,000 of these devices tracking vehicles in real time. Massive surveillance networks being used by the government as well as private firms. We are entering an era of total movement surveillance. Now, this is also very telling. In India, how many people are in India? Over 1 billion people. How many mobile phones do they have? Do they have like 2 mobile phones per person? I don't know, but this is interesting. Probably not. But India is forcing mandatory tracking applications on all mobile phones. Like you really need it. I mean, in reality, if you've got a mobile phone, you can be tracked anyway, but they want to add an extra level of tracking on your phone. The government is requiring installation on a centralized, keyword centralized here, tracking app. And they say it's for security and emergency alerts. Critics call it mass surveillance. 1.4 billion people just got digitally tagged, but it's because they love you. In other news, the Carrington-sized sunspot doesn't mean it's going to launch towards Earth, but there is, if you look at, there's actually a couple of these sunspots that are very close together that could merge together as one. And these sunspots are rivaling the size of the 1859 Carrington event sunspot. This could potentially generate a massive X-class flare, raising concerns about grid vulnerability. A solar superstorm risk is officially back on the table. Now, China, Japan, Taiwan, major standoff right now with China and Japan near contested islands. Naval vessels are facing off or did just face off in the East China Sea. Both nations are claiming control of the islands. Tensions are rising as the military assets move closer. This could be Asia's next flashpoint, and it could erupt at any moment. Now, remember earlier I was talking about there was a helicopter, and I think it was either an F-35 or an F-16. I'll double check exactly. But there were two aircraft that crashed within a matter of hours of each other, performing exercises in the South China Sea. Now, when I read that news, I immediately thought, interesting. Could the CCP be involved in this somehow, or was this user error? Was this technological error? Well, check this out. Chinese ships are jamming communications as Filipino forces supply occupied Shoal. PLA vessel deploys electronic jamming. Philippines accuse China of aggression, and this reflects escalating control in West Philippine Sea. Electronic warfare at sea is becoming the new normal. There's been all sorts of GPS jamming going on in and around the Caribbean and Venezuela. And how about all of the plane crashes that happened earlier this year? Now, the official story was the air traffic controllers. There weren't enough of them and they weren't trained enough. But is that really the only culprit? I am not convinced of that. It could be, but I'm definitely thinking there's more to the story, especially with the short time frame when all of these events were taking place, at least in the public sector that they were telling us about. And then check this out. Taiwan and China, the People's Liberation Army, 10 PLA aircraft, 6 PLAN vessels, 2 official ships operate around Taiwan, Nanu. 4 of these vessels crossed the median line into Taiwan's ADIZ. China is increasing multi-domain pressure, and the Taiwan military is placed on alert. China is normalizing incursions that once triggered crisis-level alarms. So what happens here at home? President Trump just signed a bill deepening the U.S. and Taiwan ties. This expands military and political cooperation, seen as direct challenge to Beijing, possibly accelerating conflict and the conflict's timeline. Washington is openly shifting towards formal support of Taiwan. And then the U.S. is also preparing frontline air base for a Chinese missile attack, hardening infrastructure in the Pacific bases, shelters, dispersal tactics, and missile defense upgrades. This is reflecting Pentagon's belief that a strike is possible. The U.S. is preparing for the first strikes of a future war. Then, in space news, we've had a fleet of Airbus A320s of like 6,000, actually, approximately 6,000. That's about half of their fleet. 6,000 aircraft were grounded during the Thanksgiving weekend, one of the biggest holiday seasons of the year. They grounded 6,000 jets because of a radiation spike that caused the software to glitch. One of these planes actually started doing a nosedive, and the official story is because the radiation levels were so high, they were glitching the software, causing these unprepared and not caused by the pilot. These things, one of them actually just did this major nosedive. Nobody got killed, luckily, in that event, but there were injuries. So I was questioning the official story on that, but there was a mass influx of radiation because of the solar flares. Now, the radiation got even higher after that, several days later, but is this a sign of the new norm with radiation? So space weather is becoming more hostile. Solar storms are threatening satellite electronics. We've got increased drag, outages, and orbital decay, and Earth's space infrastructure is entering a danger zone. Highway to the danger zone. Kenny Loggins. I love that song. Sorry, I'm showing my age, aren't I? Gen X, man. Gen X. So, other news. Solar superstorm Gannon crushed Earth's plasmasphere. Nanu. Extreme geomagnetic event compressed the plasmasphere. It reveals Earth's magnetic environment is weakening, could worsen effects of future X-class flares, and the shield protecting Earth is showing cracks. Now, recently, it was about a year ago, but I don't know how this didn't make mainstream news everywhere. researchers and scientists were studying the Earth's inner core. Now, the way that they were doing that is they were using seismic data from earthquakes and technology to study the movement of the Earth's core. And in doing so, they found that the Earth's inner core was actually slowing, potentially reversing. Now we look at the bizarre movement of the magnetic poles. We look at the strange weather patterns, like these extreme weather patterns that we're getting, and the influx of solar radiation coming in. It seems like it's all connected. The Earth's inner core, the sun, the solar radiation, the magnetosphere, the extreme weather. And you can go back to the 2010 timeframe when it seemed like there was a big influx in radiation causing problems with roads melting, people getting instantly sunburnt. So I wonder if when that was going on and we were having a weakened magnetosphere, if there were clandestine operations taking place in the toposphere, way, way out in the magnetosphere, where they were actually doing some type of solar radiation management and attempts to block this solar radiation coming in and attempts to slow down a potential magnetic pole shift. Now, this is just theory. This is just thoughts, but I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised at all. Now, in other news, the European Union defense chief, Europe must rethink modern warfare. Europe faces multi-front security threats, calling for integrated defense and rapid deployment, warns old structures are inadequate. Is Europe waking up to the 21st century battlefield? Well, Ukraine and Russia and China certainly is. Hopefully the US is too. Europe is considering retaliatory response against Russia. This is a huge deal. This is like grand, massive, big deal here. Politico reports EU leaders are discussing strike options on Russia. This is once unthinkable, and it reflects the changing mood, signals rising willingness to confront President Putin. Europe is closer to direct military engagement than ever before, except for the previous wars. NATO's preemptive strike remarks, Russia says, is irresponsible and escalatory. You don't say. Kremlin says NATO rhetoric pushes world towards major conflict. Claims West is provoking nuclear confrontation. Moscow feels cornered, historically a dangerous phase. But at the same time, look at all the stuff that's going on with these European nations and all of the drones that are observed over NATO bases, the hybrid warfare, they call it, with the rail lines being sabotaged in Poland. Somebody blows up the railway in Poland, and that was because a train was going to take supplies to Ukraine, and there's been a breach in airspace from these drones. So I can definitely see why NATO's building up their military, and then the U.S. pulls out a lot of their support, not all, but the U.S. is now shifting gears towards the Caribbean and Venezuela, down in that region down there. And I think that it's not just Venezuela. They want the Panama Canal. You got a bunch of troops and you have a lot of technology, military technology out there, ships and vessels and F-35s, 10,000 plus troops, and you're really close to the Panama Canal. That might be a deterrent for the CCP, because obviously China and the CCP and the Panama Canal, they're very close ties right now. So that's interesting. I think that there's going to be more to the story than just Venezuela. I think there's more to the story than just Venezuelan oil. I think there's more to the story than just drug smugglers. They're looking a multitude of steps ahead, not just one step ahead. Russia has also threatened Greece recently over sea drone deal with Ukraine. Greece provides maritime drones to Kyiv. Russia threatens retaliation. The Mediterranean tensions spike. The Ukraine war is expanding into other regions. And so Russia now is boasting this flamethrower. They got this new flamethrower they say can fry drones over 500,000 square feet in seconds. It is a new area denial thermal weapon designed to counter swarming UAVs. It demonstrates rapid Russian adaptation. Drone warfare is forcing militaries to invent brutal new technologies. Can you imagine a flamethrower that could fry drones over 500,000 square feet in seconds. That's insane. Reminds me a bit of the Tesla death ray. Excuse me. In other news, so Porsche, I love Porsche. Like Porsche is one of my favorite vehicles. It's timeless, beautiful, fast. It handles amazing. It is like one of the iconic cars of all time, Porsche. However, I wouldn't be happy about this if I owned a Porsche and I lived in Russia. Hundreds of Porsche owners in Russia can't start their cars after system failure. It was a digital system outage that disabled vehicles. This highlights vulnerability of connected vehicles. Russians blame sanctions and dependence on foreign software. Yeah, where do they make Porsches? Germany. Duh. These are German. Nein. So they're like, we've got 1 million Porsche, or we've got, not 1 million, we've got hundreds of Porsches in Russia. Why don't we just shut them off? They pissed us off. Let's just shut them off. Boom. I mean, this is speculation here. I'm just speculating, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was, somebody at the headquarters out there, some political move that said, look what we can do, Russia. You guys want to play ball? Let's play ball. We're going to shut off all your luxury cars now that we have access to with a digital, with a push of a button. We're going to stop your cars in their tracks. And that makes me question, like, what about all these other cars? Is there a kill switch embedded in all modern automobiles, or most? Probably. I wouldn't be surprised. The new laws that they want, or the new bills and the new regulations that they want by 2027, where they want to be able to track all cars with not only sensors, but potentially cameras. And they're like, well, it's, we don't want people to drink and drive. Well, I appreciate that. But how far are you going to go? Could you imagine being every move you make in your car being recorded and having sensors in your car that detect everything from temperature to potentially, I don't know, maybe you're under the influence. They could detect that, shut your car off. Now that sounds like a great safety feature. That could save a lot of lives. But also think about the consequences and how many rights are we willing to, how much privacy are we willing to sacrifice because some a-hole out there decides to drink and drive and put people's lives at risk. Because that's what they do. They present something as a savior. They present something as a safe move to save lives, and they can. But at the same time, they're, maybe to save one life, well, they're gonna track 1 billion people to save that one person's life. Is it worth it? Well, it definitely would be if you were the person's life that got saved, but it's a very slippery slope. I mean, I can definitely see how this can go into a full-on Minority Report, totalitarian digital system that tracks everything you do, uploads everything to these data centers, uses all your information that you say against you. And oftentimes information that you give or what you say or what you think might just be you're upset. You read something, you get upset about it. So you leave a comment about it and you're like, oh shit, I probably shouldn't have said that. That's not really how I feel, but that's how I felt at the time. Like, you got to be real careful out there what you say and what you do. And that's why I love artificial intelligence. Gary Kasparov. So I used to love Gary Kasparov. I don't know about his politics. I don't, but I love the fact that he was such an amazing chess player that when computers were starting to really take off, Gary Kasparov was like, I'll take on any computer you can bring at me. And there's a lot of conspiracies about how potentially the computers that they used to compete against Gary Kasparov, it wasn't just the computer that was competing against Gary Kasparov. It was dozens of grandmasters that were behind the curtain, as well as the computer that was competing against Gary Kasparov. Now, with that in mind, there's computers so advanced now, they make the IBM Deep Blue and the computers that they used 20-something years ago look like Atari 4-bit video game consoles because they're so advanced. And then the quantum computers that we're working on now can actually, some of these quantum computers can decode and break encryption in a matter of minutes that would take today's top supercomputers billions, trillions, and even more years. Like, what was the amount that they said the one was like 7 It was more than a quadrillion years. It was basically the amount of time that we know of, that we think the universe has been in existence. A supercomputer would take that long to decode and break some of this encryption, whereas these quantum computers can do it in under 5 minutes. And we're seeing a revolution in these computers and supercomputers advance at exponential rates. In 10 years, the quantum computers in 10 years might be 1 trillion times faster than the quantum computers now, because it continues to advance. So technology is amazing. It's fascinating, and it also can be very frightening. But I, for one, am excited to see my AI overlords. Anyway, so Gary Kasparov recently tore into NATO at Halifax Security Forum. Am I saying that right? Halifax, or is it Halifax? So he claims that NATO is far too slow and too cautious against Russia, and accuses West of enabling Russian expansion. He's calling for stronger direct action. So one of Russia's smartest dissidents says NATO is failing its mission. France has created voluntary military service in response to rising Russia threat, rebuilding reserve and civilian readiness. This is part of a wider European remilitarization, and Europe is quietly rearming its populations. Germany is also considering voluntary military service. And they had a 1,200-page war plan that was recently leaked, showing how they want to integrate civilian life with military life, showing how they want to integrate everything together to be prepared for a potential war with Russia. So this is reflecting their socio-political shift in Berlin. Youth participation programs are being expanded. This is driven by Russian threat perception. Germany is returning to a defense mindset not seen in generations. Now, in environmental news, environmental collapse is forcing Iran to potentially move its capital. Severe drought, pollution, water crisis. Tehran is becoming uninhabitable. Is it really, though? Government planning relocation. Iran faces an environmental time bomb. Imagine, like, how many people live in Tehran? Can somebody leave that in the comment section? How many people are out there? Does that mean they're all going to leave, or they're just going to make half of them leave? What does that actually mean? Do you really think they're going to move an entire capital? It kind of sounds like propaganda to me, but that's what the news is claiming. Now, this is a lot closer to home. The United States Navy is accused of a cover-up over plutonium in San Francisco. Allegations of radioactive contamination near the shipyard. Whistleblowers are claiming decades-long suppression. A nuclear contamination scandal may be unfolding. Now, if you've heard of CRINC, China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea cooperation, this is a growing multipolar alliance challenging the West. Military, economic, cyber coordination is increasing. So this is a new super bloc that's forming, and it's forming fast. So let's keep our eyes on that. U.S. naval powers position near Venezuela. This coincides with regional tensions, demonstrates readiness for rapid intervention. And then there was some satellite imagery that was showing the buildup in the Caribbean. And there's also a satellite photo that captured China's D-Day invasion drills with massive amphibious assault exercise, looks like Taiwan invasion practices involving ships, armor, and simulated beach landings. China is rehearsing for the real thing. China also has an unprecedented number of ships in the U.S. Arctic waters. DHS reports surge of Chinese vessels, research ships suspected of dual-use intelligence roles. This may attempt Arctic route dominance, and the Arctic is becoming a new strategic battlefield. Also, recently, the U.S. Navy attempted to lift a jet and a helicopter from the bottom of the South China Sea. And they're doing it because they don't want China to capture the technology. Well, of course, duh. This is a rare public acknowledgement of deep sea recovery. The question is, how did that helicopter, and how did that jet crash within hours of each other in the South China Sea? User error, technological error, or is there some type of GPS jamming or some type of computer glitch, digital interference taking place from an adversary? And this just happened as well. An Air Force pilot ejected in the California desert out of his F-16 before it crashed. The cause is still under investigation. This is another incident in a recent string of aircraft mishaps. Chernobyl is back in the news due to unexpected development, radiation spikes, and structural concerns. Fears that instability may worsen. They found high spikes, these radiation spikes, and they were saying that it might have something. What do they say it had something to do with? I'll have to go back to that because there's a multitude of reports. They're saying that they think something was moving underground, causing the radiation to spike. Maybe. But the Ukrainian infrastructure renovations are underway. Remember, recently there was some Russian drones that blew out a big chunk of the, what do you call that? I'm having a brain freeze here for a moment. Not a Faraday cage, but the protection cage that they put over Chernobyl that they spent years and millions of dollars on. Well, these drones blew a hole in it. So what's going on? Russia's also launched brain-chipped bird drones for surveillance. Remember the saying, birds aren't real, man? Well, birds are real, man, but now we have cyborg birds in Russia. Cybernetic birds and drones styled as birds. Now, the birds that are being used for spying and surveillance, these cyborg birds, have brain-computer interfaces. When do you think they start doing that with people? Like not just, Neuralink, but I'm talking like actual, you're born, you get chipped. That could be within 20 years. I would not be surprised if new mandates in certain nations, now this is pure speculation here, and this is just a theory of mine and a forecast, but within 20 years, probably within 10 years, they might have mandatory chipping at birth, brain chipping, not just, in your hand to buy and sell, but actual brain computer interface. Wouldn't be surprised. Wouldn't be surprised at all. So these cybernetic birds are designed for stealth city surveillance. Russia's blending biology and robotics for espionage. It's brilliant. It's frightening, but it's brilliant. Now, war business is very profitable. The world's largest weapons maker hits record revenues. Arms manufacturing booms. Global rearmament driving profits. Reflects rising geopolitical instability. War is big business, and business is booming. The Department of Energy. This is another thing that should be all over the news, but it's not. It was on like Yahoo News, this little blurb on Yahoo News. Then I was trying to find out where the original source came from, because a lot of times you can read stuff on Yahoo News that they'll take news from various sources and they'll upload it through Yahoo. Check this out. The United States Department of Energy has recently warned of 100-fold increase in blackouts by 2030. 100-fold. I'll bet you feel good living in a big city, don't you? Data centers are driving extreme power demand. Aging grid cannot handle the load. Blackouts are expected to skyrocket. AI could potentially crash the grid before it changes the world. But Google says we don't care, because Google recently told employees they need to double AI capacity every 6 months to keep up with competition. AI demand is exploding exponentially. Infrastructure cannot keep pace. Energy usage reaching unsustainable levels. Tech companies admit AI is consuming the planet's electricity, but they're still building larger, more. We need more energy. That's why they're talking about building micro reactors and burying them a mile underground, because there's not enough power to power these data centers in the future if it continues to grow the way that it is. Now, what we're going to need to do is figure out how to launch these things in space and launch them out there on the moon, the data centers. That would make a hell of a lot more sense if you're going to continue to build the evolution of humanity into transhumanity, where man is merged with machine. 6G, sixth generation communications, basically using an interface of humans and technology to transfer terahertz frequency, like terahertz, 1 trillion cycles per second. 5G, fifth generation communications, is in the billions of cycles per second. This sixth generation, they want to use trillions of cycles per second. They want to use terahertz waves. And it's crazy. I've read reports, or not reports, I've read science papers, technology papers, where they want to use people as the interface of this technology, kind of like a router in a sense. It's really, really it's a trip, man. So we've got U.S. firms advancing plans to bury nuclear reactors a mile underground, deep earth, small reactor design, safety through isolation concept, and they say it reduces a meltdown risk. But what about all the stuff that's a mile down? Like, are there aquifers down there? I need to get a geologist on the show. Because I don't know enough about this. I would say it's probably safer potentially to put a micro reactor a mile underground. But does that mean it's safe? Like, could there be an earthquake or could there be some type of event that would cause Earth a mile underground to break or to cave in? I mean, very, very slippery slope when they want to put hundreds of micro reactors a mile underground. But war is business, and business is booming. And so are these data centers, and they need energy. Now, have you heard of the Dragonfire laser weapon? It's in the UK. It's a new high energy laser system that can shoot down drones and missiles. It's extremely cost effective compared to conventional interceptors. So the laser warfare era is officially here. Remember when it was just Star Wars and Buck Rogers and Lost in Space? Pew, 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 lasers. But here is something interesting. And Elon Musk made a great point about this. Frightening, but a great point. You go back and you watch Star Wars, and they miss 90% of the time. They're shooting lasers, and the Jedis are knocking the lasers away with their lightsabers, and they're really bad shots. Some of these robots, they suck at, their aim is terrible. That makes no sense whatsoever. In reality, robots designed for warfare are going to be so accurate, it's probably going to be way above and beyond 99% accuracy. So imagine the future where we have these android wars with robots shooting lasers at 99% accuracy. Welcome to the future of warfare. There is a new NATO ally base in the Arctic, and it's a strategic installation near polar routes. It monitors missiles, aircraft, and drones. Now, this is a laser base, laser beams, and they built this to counter Russia and China. Astronomers have also recently confirmed 40,000 or more NEOs, that's near-Earth asteroids, that are within striking distance. 40,000. And many are still undiscovered. Obviously, potential for unexpected impacts. Earth is orbiting through a cosmic minefield. Hello. New Mexico. I love New Mexico. I live next door to New Mexico. I have friends that live in New Mexico. Did you hear about this? Toxic metal plume may threaten New Mexico residents. Plume possibly from industrial or mining waste contaminating groundwater and soil. There's long-term exposure risks. Environmental disasters often go unnoticed until it's too late. Yeah, well, this hit the local news and page 10 of the mainstream news. This should be front page. You need to warn everybody in that region, in my opinion, and I'm sure yours, people have the right to know what's going on. I want to talk about some good news now for a minute. We've been talking a lot about spooky news. Let's talk about some good news. Let's jump off the war wagon for a minute. Kraft and Coca-Cola are being sued for ultra-processed foods. This is a landmark lawsuit in San Francisco. The claims, those that are suing Kraft and Coca-Cola are claiming their products contribute to dis-ease. This could set a national precedent. So speaking of war, the food war has officially begun. Well, I mean, food has been used as a war mechanism for decades. And when you have giant corporations that have virtually no accountability and have tons of legal loopholes that put additives in the food because legally they can, and they make these ultra processed foods and they feed it to millions, if not billions of people for years because they've been able to get away with it. If Kraft and Coca-Cola lose these lawsuits, I think, my opinion, that will be a huge win for the health of the human race and for the health of the world. But the problem is, I get excited because I see these, I'm a big fan of Make America Healthy Again. I've always been a big fan of Keep America Healthy. Let's do everything we can to, let's eat right, let's exercise, let's know what's in our foods. But so Maha, they're doing a pretty good job, right? They're going to these big corporations and they're saying, hey, you need to pull the food dyes out of your food because it can cause problems. And so they're making a step, like 1 step progress, 2 steps progress. But then you read about how the EPA is going to allow a new pesticide with forever chemicals in it to be sprayed on our food. Like, what is wrong with this picture? Great, you're taking out red 40 out of food, but you're going to put forever chemicals on the fruits? Come on. Aren't we trying to get rid of these forever chemicals? How can you logically justify that if it isn't involving money? Oh, that pisses me off. Oh. Well, we took red 40 out of your soda pop, but we're going to put forever chemicals on your strawberries, sucker. Like 1 step ahead, 10 steps backward. Come on. You really want to make America healthy again, you need to get rid of all that crap. Pull the forever chemicals out. Get rid of the glyphosate. Get rid of all these nasty toxins they put in food and all these stupid freaking... Man, it's hot in here now. Woo-wee. Sorry. Just like, McFly. Hello, McFly. Well, yeah, we're going to put forever chemicals on the fruits and then we're going to feed those to your kids. What do you think about that? But we did take red FD4C, whatever, we did take that red dye out of the candy, but now your kids are wanting to eat healthy fruit. Well, they got forever chemicals on them. Don't we have enough forever chemicals? Take your forever chemicals and woo-wee. I'll tell you what you can do with your forever chemicals. I got a couple ideas. Anyway, I apologize. I'm not trying to get upset. This stuff I'm real passionate about. I don't like seeing people get poisoned. I don't like seeing people sticking up for these corporations because you're like, hey, there's glyphosate on that. There's chemicals in there that aren't good for you. And they're like, what are you talking about, man? I eat this stuff all the time. I'm fine. I'm going to the dirty clown later. The dirty clown. Yeah, the dirty clown. All right. Next topic. Everybody's like, Rex, chill out, man. I want to share some good news with you now. Some more good news. Nasal drops could potentially help fight deadly brain cancer. This is a new drug delivery method. This targets tumors directly via the olfactory route. This is a potentially breakthrough treatment. This could be the next revolution in medicine, and you could just shoot it up your nose. Wouldn't that be cool? Like, with all of these weapons of mass destruction and with all of these technologies that are like, well, man, we solved this problem in 4 minutes that would take a supercomputer 40 billion years to solve. We did it in 4 minutes. Well, can you figure out how to get rid of the forever chemicals? Can you figure out how to come up with healthy methods to cut down on, the pesticide use and the herbicide use? Could you use that to come up with solutions and ways to heal people instead of blow people up? You think it could do that? I mean, just an idea. Well, there's not enough money in that, Rex, because war is big money. And I mean, come on, man. It just makes you realize how full of so many people are. Like, yeah, man, we're making America healthy again, but we're spraying pesticides on your food, sucker, with forever chemicals. Scientists, in other news, this is good news. Scientists think we could recharge our cells and reverse aging. Research into mitochondrial rejuvenation, reversing cellular decay, could potentially extend lifespan significantly. Human anti-aging, I mean, that's one thing that has been talked about with the singularity and Ray Kurzweil. Ray Kurzweil has forecast the singularity. At first, I think it was around 2040, and then he moved it to around 2030. And now I think he's saying even in the next several months, we could potentially reach the singularity. Wouldn't that be awesome? Like, I wouldn't mind being around for another 50,000 years. If I can ride my bike, drink my coffee, and do podcasts, hang out with my friends and family, that sounds awesome. Have you seen the film In Time? Did you see that film In Time that had, I think, Justin Timberlake in it? And in the movie, currency is time. So the super rich, and you live at this ideal, like you live like you're in your 30s, like you're in peak health while you're alive. But when your time's out, you're done. So you've got like this digital watch that shows you how much time you have as currency. And then like some of these people that are living day to day that have like 4 hours left, they're trading an hour of it for dinner. But then they got to go work and get more, and then you got the super rich that have millions of years of currency in time. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the future of currency. When? I don't know, but I could definitely see that as the future of currency. It'd be really interesting. Here's another thing that I've been talking about this now since 2011. DNA storage, literally DNA storage. Scientists have created a DNA cassette tape that can store every song ever written. This is massive data per gram, extreme longevity, and DNA could absolutely replace all digital storage. Why not? And talked about this 2011. Go back and read my blogs on Godlike Productions. Computers made from human brain tissue are coming. Biocomputers built from lab-grown brain cells. Faster learning, ultra-low energy. This raises ethical and existential questions. We're merging biology and machines. Are we ready? Are you ready? I think they've already got these available. I think you can actually buy one. It's like $30,000. $30,000 biological computer for sale. The world's first commercial biological computer, the CL1 by Cortisol Labs, is available for sale and generally priced at about $35,000 per unit. It uses approximately 800,000 lab-grown human brain cells integrated with a silicon chip and is designed primarily for neuroscience and biotech research. It is the CL1. It's available for pre-order and purchase directly from Cortical Labs, and the standard price, $35,000, though discounts may be available for bulk orders. So if you buy a rack of 30, a price drop to $20,000 per unit might be available. You can inquire about purchasing one on the official website, Cortical Labs website. Oh, man. For those that do not wish to purchase a physical unit, Cortical Labs also offers the ability to rent processing power via the cloud for about $300 per week per unit. What could possibly go wrong? Now, so it's interesting to think about because, a lot of people say technology can't harbor a soul, can't harness a soul. And I don't know if I agree with that, but, maybe. Definitely, I mean, I could see that absolutely, like, okay. But what happens when they merge technology with biology? Is there some type of soul or soul essence connected to these miniature brains, these organoids that they grow in laboratories that then they start growing eyeballs? and they start playing Pong with these miniature brains, and they put these organoids in space and they start evolving. It's like, it's wild. We live in amazing times. So, oh man. All right. So anyway, that's the news for now. Stay tuned. I have a lot more to share. Hit the bell for all notifications if you would, please. Please hit the thumbs up, leave a comment, and please share this video. For whatever reason, with 420,000 subscribers, a lot of times we only get a few hundred people that show up in the live streams. And I'm like, wait a second. Like, do the math on that. 420,000 subscribers and 400 people show up for a live stream. Sometimes it's less than that. I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because I read the comments. Seems like most people are interested in what I talk about. And then I look at the percentages of like how many people actually click the link that are subscribers, and there's something going on there. I don't know what it is, but it's weird. Like 400,000, 400, that's what, like 0.1%. So 0.1% of our people show up for the live stream. So if you would please share this video out, if you feel like it is worth sharing, I would really appreciate it. And yeah, let's read through some of the comments now. Who's in the chat? Who do you got in the chat here? Let me scroll up. I haven't even had a chance to really look at the comments yet. So I would like to say hello to everybody here. Bruce, how the heck are you? Jade, how you doing? Gal Adriel, hi. Kevin, how you doing? First I thought it said Kevin Bacon, but it's Kevin Beaven. One little drop in the ocean. CPF, Charlie Rose. String Pickin. II004. Hillard Ward. Institution Performance. Romine. Cindy. Cat in the chat. The Real Raven Quest. Retro. Billy Bob. Awesome. 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 Elderberry. Backwards Weirdo. Justin. Shockwave. What's up, brother? How you doing, man? Stu. Black Dingo watching on Rumble. Thank you. Cat in the chat. Oh, yeah, I already said your name, but Nanu, saw you there again. If I missed your name, I apologize. We've got a lot of comments here, and I'm only scrolled through like a quarter of them. So, Couch Camper, what's up, buddy? C Noble, good to see you. All right, everybody, thank you so much. Really awesome to be able to spend some time with you all and go on a quick rant. Hope it wasn't too much. Sometimes I'm feeling it, man. You know what I mean? You know what I mean. All right, everybody. Be the change you want to see. Thank you.